Folks, here at OS Reviews, you're watching our video review of the Bluedio BS-2. This is a Bluetooth speaker or a Bluetooth sound box that provides 3D sound. It's a stereo speaker. It also has a microphone built in for doing speakerphone calls, and it supports any Android, iOS, or Windows smartphone. It's part of the Bluedio Hurricane series, which also includes the T2S turbine headphones that we reviewed a few weeks ago. The BS-2 sells for around $45 from Amazon.com, making it an average price for a Bluetooth speaker, not too expensive, also not too cheap either. Taking a look at the box is pretty simple. Now the speaker itself is a bit smaller than I expected, and I'll show you guys the design in a moment. In terms of specs, we have a Bluetooth version 4.1 on board. The range is up to 10 meters, and there's a 7-hour playback time as well that's rated. On the back there's some basic info about the ergonomics, and there's also a seal that tells you this is a authentic Bluedio product. So here's the box that it comes in. Again, a pretty cool presentation, very professional on the inside. We have access to the speaker itself and also the accessories. So this includes an auxiliary cable if you don't want to use Bluetooth to connect it to maybe an MP3 player, you can do that. It's a gold-plated connection cord. There's also a micro USB cable for charging the speaker itself. It takes about 2 hours to completely charge. And finally, there are instruction manuals as well as a quick warranty guide inside. Placing the speaker next to a 6-inch phone, the LG G Flex, you can get a comparison of how the size is relatively portable and easy to take with you. The design for the most part isn't that unique or inspiring, although it does have a few concurved edges on the sides. It makes for an interesting geometric shape. On the very top you have access to all the controls. It includes the key to turn on a 3-dimensional sound. There's also controls for the volume and a power on-off switch, which I can tap on for a few seconds longer to initiate the pairing mode. All the keys here are tactile, responsive, and risen above the surface, so it's relatively easy to press. You also see some LEDs on the very top. Now this particular speaker does have voice-guided prompts. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing really depends on the user. I'm not the biggest fan of this particular feature just because I think it's a little bit redundant, especially since the LEDs already do a fairly good job at showing you what mode the speaker is in. On the bottom you have access to rubber feet, which prevents the speaker from sliding around when you place it onto a desk or a surface. There's also a slightly angular shape on the sides, which adds a bit of style. But that being said, the Bluedio logo is not exactly centered. You can see it's a bit tilted, which is something that the company should work out for future models. On the very sides, you have access to the micro USB port for charging, as well as an auxiliary port if you don't want to use the Bluetooth functionality, and that's basically it. There is a passive radiator on the back, but the design itself is fairly clean and lightweight, even though it doesn't feel too cheap. It's not too flashy either. So giving you guys a quick look at how I can connect a phone onto the speaker, it's basically called the BS-2, and afterwards you can be paired to up to 2 phones at the same time. I'm going to tap on a music source and give you guys a demo of the audio quality. I can turn the music all the way up. You can hear that it's fairly crisp sounding and also can get very, very loud, which is quite impressive. At the maximum setting here, it definitely can fill up smaller spaces and rooms without any issues. So if you're using this for parties or in the house or in the office, it does a good job for those purposes. There's also a 3D mode which you can tap on to add a more full effect to your music if you're planning on watching movies. It actually makes the action sound like it's happening next to your ears, which is quite impressive. Overall, it's very responsive. If I tap on something, it almost happens instantaneously. I would have liked to see the ability for you to pause the music directly by tapping on the speaker somehow, but that's a key that's lacking currently on this particular model. That being said, I'm fairly impressed with the audio quality on here. There is a bit of static and distortion at the lower frequencies, especially if you turn the volume all the way down. You can hear that bit if I pause the music. However, this isn't a big deal, and we also found the same distortion on other Bluetooth speakers in the same price bracket. Additionally, if you plan on using the auxiliary port to listen to music and you don't want to use Bluetooth, you still have the same amount of distortion in the background, so it's not something that's exclusive only to the Bluetooth feature if you want to use that mode. When it comes to the speakerphone quality, we're also fairly impressed. It's not a noise-canceling speaker or a microphone either, so if you're talking in a noisier environment, it's not going to be as good as in the realm of your house or in the office, so that's something to note quickly. Otherwise, battery life was also decent. We got roughly 6.5 hours of continuous playback before we need to recharge it, and recharging the speaker takes only 2 hours to complete, so we had no issues in that department.